Yeah.
Truth brought to Progress, Kentucky. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We've got another just action-packed week of Kentucky political news coming your way. We're looking at how the GOP supermajority in Frankfort is protecting corporate interests. Yes, from corporate charter schools to cancer-causing chemicals to gun manufacturers, the GOP supermajority truly delivered this week. And we're also getting an update on efforts to bring back the death penalty through legislation that's working its way through Frankfort as well. So we've got Russell Allen from the Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. He is going to be joining us this week to fill us in on legislation that is moving forward right now. So thanks so much for joining us, and let's get into it. But before we do, I want to make sure you're ready. You there on the internet, ready to organize to fight the Trump MAGA regime and turn Kentucky purple. The next No Kings is around the corner, people. It's on Saturday, March 28th. Progress Kentucky will be working with the Lexington No Kings Coalition to lead that effort. And there are lots of other efforts all around the Commonwealth, which is pretty exciting. We want to make the Lexington effort big enough to hit that 3.5% rule, which is, according to sociologist Erica Chenoweth, if 3.5% of a population is engaged in ongoing organized resistance, we will topple authoritarian administration. So that's what we're trying to do, right? So 3.5% of Kentucky's population of 4.6 million people is 161,000 people, folks. So we got our work cut out for us. In Lexington, the magic number is 11,550 people. So we got within spitting distance of that for the last Lexington event. But my hunch is a lot of those people were not actually from Lexington, kind of came from the suburbs and the exurbs and the whatever. So this year's event, this event is going to have more local, is my hunch. So we really do need to turn the temperature up in Lexington itself. So again, 11,550, we'll just say 11,600. That's what we want to do. So the event is live on the map. Please find your closest event and show up. Turn out your friends. Turn out folks who agree that the Trump administration needs to be stopped, and join us there. Wherever it works best for you. But again, the more events, the more people, the more likely we are to win, and we got to win. So in Lexington, we're planning for some great speakers. We're going to have veterans against this new embarrassing war. We're going to have faith leaders for peace. Teachers for our constitutional democracy, maybe some like small business owners talking about how Trump administration has not been great for them either. So it should be a fantastic event. Make your plans. Join us out there. All right. And then now let's go ahead and do our BITIN list. Check in with our co-host and do our BITIN list. It's always tough to pick with all the political bad actors out there who we're going to, be inspired to go after. But I'm going to say this. Some Aaron coming to you from the lovely deed restricted neighborhood of Childsburg. And I'm going to put the number one person on my BITIN list, Markwayne Mullin. So senator, he's nominated to be the next Homeland Security secretary. And here's why I'm putting him on my BITIN list, because I have to give kudos to Rand Paul. And I hate giving kudos to Rand Paul. It seems to happen from time to time. But Rand Paul went after Markwayne Mullin and just told the truth about this guy. He has not got the temperament to be the secretary, to be on a cabinet and to be the secretary of such an important agency. Called him out saying this guy's got anger issues and he shouldn't be in charge of 250,000 employees that are already having issues doing the right thing in the streets of our state or cities, right? So of course referring to the horrible death of Alex Pretty and Renee Good. So really just I guess kudos to Rand Paul. Yikes. All right, let's check in with our co-host, Nate. I hear you typing away. What have you got for us?
You got me fair and square, partner. Yeah, hey, folks, this is Nate Orshan coming live from the capital city, Frankfurt, South Frankfurt to be specific. And what I was actually about to do was share something in the notes, which I will in a second. But if anyone is in the Frankfurt area and on Sunday, the 22nd, and wants to know about their rights and civic activation, especially around if they come across ICE agents up to no good, Capital Indivisible is going to have a great training. It's going to be at the Paul Sawyer Public Library, 319 Wapping Street in Frankfurt, 1:15 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. So come one, come all. We'll share the link in our show notes. So that's where I'll be on Sunday afternoon. And BITIN list, I was about to add Congressman Jamie Comer just by default because he's my congressman and I can't stand him, except that now Aaron's told me that he's actually subpoenaed Attorney General Pam Bondi. Why? It's about the Epstein investigation and compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. So no bites for Congressman Comer today. Just thank you. Don't make us love you. We won't.
So it's the broken clock, right? Like
yes. Always broken.
Can't be horrible all the time. Trump is so bad that even Republicans we loathe are pointing out some of his inadequacies and deficiencies.
Yes.
All right, Kimberly, are you there?
Yes, I am. How is everyone doing? I'm coming to you live from Louisville, Jefferson County. And my BITIN list tonight is anyone that is involved with making the decisions on this asinine Iranian war. Mm-hmm. That's my BITIN list tonight because they don't give a F. And I love that commercial by the lieutenant governor that is going to be the primary candidate for Senate. And the commercial that she had people saying F Trump, right? I love that commercial because that's how we feel. And when you have my daughter over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where they are plummeting the base in Riyadh constantly, and I'm on the phone with her and I hear the sirens, I hear the bombs, I'm like, F all of them too.
Yeah. It just sounds horrible. It sounds like they don't have a plan. Obviously, they've been exposed as just the most incompetent, Department of War. My God, you'd imagine if they're going to change their name, they'd at least know how to prosecute a war appropriately. But no, they don't. Like who saw them bombing, other nations? Well, everybody. Who saw
nobody's parent
the Straits of Hormuz? Well, everybody, right? It's like
nobody as a parent should be on the phone with their son or daughter that are risking their lives for this country and hear bombs and sirens in the background that sound like they're right in your front yard. It's the most scariest thing I can tell you. But I will also say this to you. Somebody's going to pay. Somebody's going to pay. And it's going to come sooner than later, but we cannot pull out of this war. And honestly, I hate to say this to you guys and to our listeners and viewers, but right now, all this other stuff that people are talking about and lying on their campaigns and the president is lying, people are covering up for him. I don't give a F about none of that. Okay? About none of that.
Mm-hmm.
You won't understand unless your child is over there. President Trump have Barron over there, and let's see how you feel about the war.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. Kimberly. My heart goes out to you, and of course, we are holding on him, sending all the good protective vibes we possibly can. We appreciate the important work that she does, and you just hate to think that she's doing it for such a unworthy administration, right?
I did get her a shout out on Don Lemon today.
What?
Yes.
Don Lemon.
I'm a lemon head. So yeah, I paid $25, but
that's my second favorite internet-based news source, Don Lemon.
Well, you got to look at the one that came on at 5:00 today. Yes, Captain
Awesome.
Autumn Walker.
All right, stop the show.
Remember the name,
Yeah,
Captain
folks, we're
Autumn
going to check in
Walker.
later. No, all right, Autumn Walker. All right, so let's go into the news, right? Important we do the news. That's what people are here for, not just our good looks, not just Nate's charm, Kim's charisma. It's the news. I think the first story is going to come to us from Nate.
Yeah. So today we've got two stories from Kentucky Lantern's Liam Niemeyer. I hope I'm saying that correctly. With similar themes around lawsuits against certain types of businesses. A majority of the Republican legislators in the chamber want to prevent lawsuits against these businesses, and a majority or all of the Democratic legislators don't want to prevent the possibility of such lawsuits. So yesterday, March 17th, the Kentucky House of Reps passed SB 199 that would say that, quote, the warning required under a federal law, quote, shall be deemed a sufficient warning label, unquote, and fulfill a pesticide maker's duty to warn consumers of hazards. I'm having a hard time reading today, unquote. So what's the big deal? Well, Democratic legislators say that the bill would, quote, block Kentuckians from suing pesticide companies for failing to warn of their products' hazards, unquote. So it would take a little bit of power and agency away from Kentuckians in terms of being able to sue if there's proof that the pesticides are more dangerous than the federally approved label indicates. So what it looks like here is that Republican legislators, who usually default to supporting states' rights and local power, they're going out of their way to say, you know what? The federal government knows best, and we're just going to prevent our own constituents from trying to get justice on their own. As Lexington Democrat Representative Adam Moore said, quote, we cannot make America healthy again if we make it illegal to hold the people making us sick accountable. Kentucky leads the nation in cancer. We should be leading the way in consumer protection, not leading the way in corporate immunity, unquote. Thank you, Representative Moore. So what's next for SB 199? Well, according to Kentucky Lantern, quote, the Kentucky Senate would have to concur with changes made in the House before SB 199 is sent to Democratic Governor Andy Beshear's desk, unquote. So come on, Governor Andy, let's have a good veto here. So that's one half of this. The other half is this other story that also took place yesterday, March 17th. The House passed HB 78, which does at least two things. One, quote, gun manufacturers and sellers would be shielded from lawsuits over the actions of their customers, unquote. That's one. Two, it would, quote, bar local governments from passing laws or issuing regulations that impose liability on gun sellers, manufacturers, and trade associations because of, quote, criminal misuse, alteration, or modification, unquote, of firearms. So this is one where reasonable people can disagree on the most granular level, right? Gun violence is the responsibility of the person pulling the trigger, no question. But on the systematic level, on the policy level that our government is supposed to operate at, I say there should be an opportunity to allow these kinds of lawsuits and local laws to proceed to really test whether a country that's flooded in firearms truly has no choice but to try to police its way out of staggering levels of gun violence. So now it goes to the Senate. And I will leave you with this. Please, tomorrow, call the legislative message line at 800-372-7181 and tell your senator that you want them to oppose House Bill 78. That's what we got tonight.
Nice. Yeah, it just seems like that GOP super majority really likes to use their power to protect corporations.
Yep.
Like, just, like all these horrible things that corporations are doing, whether it's Monsanto, putting, known cancer agent in their Roundup, and then failing to warn people about the real dangers that it's just, why would the GOP take time out of their very busy schedule to defend Monsanto from being sued for, the harm that it has caused? It's just outrageous. So glad to see that, Representative Adam Moore weighed in and spent his floor time to challenge what was going on there. And because he's on the Make Kentucky Healthy, caucus or something like that, like some sort of, it's clearly modeled after the Trump Maha thing, but it's like a Kentucky version of it, right? So he's been appointed to that, and he understands that's a pretty important issue for a lot of those like Maha people, right? It's like the Roundup and the glyphosate and the kind of lawsuits and the cancer, like the fact that Trump clearly is like, oh, I'm with Monsanto on this one. We want to make sure Monsanto's protected. Should be an issue that can help divide that community, because people are not, signing up for Trump so he can protect corporations. Similarly, at the state level, glad to see that Adam Moore is like kind of putting two together out there and trying to lead people to some awareness that like, look, these guys are not in it for you. They're just in it for massive corporations and the Epstein class of billionaires. And
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, so really sad to see that the GOP taking time out of their busy schedule to protect Monsanto and the Glock manufacturers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Kimberly?
I say it all the time. Everybody probably knows it by heart. They want us dumb, sick, and poor. That's what the MAGA nuts and most of the GOP, they want us dumb, sick, and poor. Talking about Roundup and all of this type of things. Do you know produce has gone up 48.9% from last month? We probably don't even worry about it because we're not going to be able to afford anything to even get any pesticides inside of us. Okay.
Yeah.
If we keep on like this. And as far as guns are concerned, we've been talking about gun control, I don't know, for a couple of decades now. I just don't think anything is going to come to grips on anything majorly important, because stuff starts at the top and it rolls downhill, meaning that it starts with the regime that we're under right now. And once that regime is filtered out, then maybe we can get something done with gun control, with pesticides and cancers and all these asinine bills that come up that don't go anywhere, or they're to harm Kentuckians, period, or the American people, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know if folks watched the Spectrum debate last night, but the Senate Democrats,
the snooze fest.
Snooze fest. I would say there was unanimity there that like you got to get rid of corporate money out of except was Dale Romans, the horse trainer, is like, yeah, I'll take APAC money. I'll take any money because I need money to get elected. You got to have money.
Oh, man.
But everyone else is like, yeah, no, we got to get rid of dark money. We got to like overturn Citizens United.
Leave it to Aaron to find something funny in the snooze fest. I was yawning. I was trying to stay up. I think I fell asleep. They were like debating in front of me and I didn't even hear anything. I was snoozing.
And I think the most insightful thing of that debate is they kept Logan Forsythe out of it, right? Like, why are you guys? You don't have another podium you can put on the stage? Like, why wouldn't you let that guy debate? He's showing up everywhere. He's working his tail off. He's got a great bio. He's got a great launch video that, maybe he's not raking in a ton of money, but he's running a legitimate campaign. Of course, how legitimate is it when you don't get your face on the most like watched opportunity so far for the race, right? So I feel for Logan on that one for sure.
Sometimes they do go by how much money that you have curated up to that point. They could say, you can be in it if you've raised at least $1 million. I think
the bar was like $100,000 for this one, and I think it was like he has $100,000, but maybe it wasn't like in the most recent report he hadn't quite hit it or something like that. So he's like,
yeah.
No, look, we got. I don't know. I wasn't like really in on the details, but I won't say I was wowed by any of them, but I will say the unpopular thing. Even though Dale Romans like said that ridiculous thing about taking APAC money, I think he might be the guy that could actually win in this crazy state that does not like to elect Democrats statewide. He might be the guy that could actually win. I know that's like your progressive values are probably offended that I said that, because he's clearly the one who's like trying to be as moderate as possible, but he said all the right things on the biggest issues for me, at least, which, he's like saying we got to flip the House and flip the Senate so we can take a bunch of Trump's power and get rid of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act because that thing was horrible. Right? Well, kind of most of what Trump's done. He's like, oh, and you want to like stop this horrible immigration crackdown that is horrible for all of our industries in Kentucky. So, you know, it's not like he's so radical, you know, so middle of the road that he's like inappropriate, right? I don't know. Like, it's better than what we got. All right, sorry. That was a bit of a detour. So Parker did not have a graphic for that story.
You forfeited your story.
I know Dale personally. He graduated from Atherton High School right here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, he's like Shively Boy, right?
Hey, but whatever. But whatever. And I'm friends with one of his nephews. He has nephews that are twins. And so one of his nephews I'm friends with, and boy, the stuff I know about Dale. Oh boy.
Well,
y'all don't even want to know.
We'll have to get him on the show, and you can confront him with some things he might not want shared. No, we won't get him on. I'm sure if we
Don't
do that.
be messing up my Derby connection to the track.
All right. So next story, also how GOP does things for corporations that aren't really in the best interest of our Commonwealth and what the voters do not want. So the second bill or veto rather was overturned for this session. The House and Senate overrode Andy Beshear's veto of a bill that would opt the state into a program of education grants for the K through 12 students promoted by the Trump administration and benefiting from a new federal tax credit. Of course, they take away all the tax credit for things that are good for our country and give them to things that aren't great for our country. This is coming to us from McKenna Horsley at, of course, our favorite, the Kentucky Lantern. So the Senate voted 31-5 to overturn Beshear's rejection of House Bill 1. The House overturned the veto on Monday. So, you know, very quickly they overturned it. The governor vetoed saying in his veto statement that he believes public dollars should only be used for public education. That's, of course, what our state constitution says. That's what the state Supreme Court has ruled. But these are federal tax dollars, people. So that's a whole different issue, right? So, you know, it's a little outrageous. It's, again, one more bad thing about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Ridiculous bill act, the big ugly bill that they created this tax credit, and HB 1 kind of forces Kentucky to opt in to that tax credit, despite the fact that year after year voters say we don't want tax dollars going to private charter schools. The governor, like, not only did he veto it, he wrote an opinion piece for the Herald Leader sharing why he vetoed it. Which kind of gets at all the things we've just been talking about. But the Wall Street Journal bashed Andy Beshear by name for vetoing the bill. Wall Street Journal, as you might know, crazy right-wing opinion page. So if you've been bashed by the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, it's kind of like a badge of honor. Yeah, if you're at all like liberal. Yeah, and I love that the governor pointed out that they wouldn't actually run his opinion piece sharing why he vetoed the bill, but they did attack him in an editorial. So at any rate, again, it's one more chance for this legislature to once again, do what they can to bring charters into this state and make sure there are tax dollars going to fund them. Our friend Olivia Kraut from the Gallery Pass wrote an awesome post about kind of all the ins and outs of it. She had guessed that Governor Beshear would let the bill go into law without signing it. So she was wrong about that, but she did a really good job of just running down the story and pointing out another bill besides House Bill 1, which, of course, I think we commented the last time we talked about that bill. Like, you name House Bill 1, you give that to the most important legislation of the majority party. So the most important legislation of the majority party this year was to make sure that we have a program to accept federal tax credits to go to private schools. Give me a break, right? But Senate Bill 263 from Stephen West, who's the chair of the Senate Education Committee, is basically a way for schools to kind of get around rules to have the ability to bring in private school operators under the school administration, right? So it's these kind of expedited waivers for districts to use to quickly waive regulations tied to not allowing them to use specific education service providers, which really would allow them to use education service providers that were private charter management companies. So this, again, one more way for them to get around, the fact that the public and our state constitution say we do not want these charters, right? Everyone remembers, that Amendment 2 was rejected by every single county across this Commonwealth by a resounding number of voters saying we do not want to change the Constitution to allow for public dollars to go to private schools. And so these are just more and more ways that the GOP will not give up that issue. So read the Gallery Pass piece. Olivia does a really good job of breaking it down. But again, what do you guys think? What is it going to take for the state GOP to get the hint that Kentucky does not want to fund private charter schools? Is it possible? Will they just ever learn, do you guys think?
No. Well, and I mean, so just to be very, very brief, you tell me charter school, what I hear is segregated school. And I think since the late 60s and going through the 70s and 80s and blah, 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 this whole push for privatization and charter schools and all that kind of stuff, it's just been a way to try to get back to a segregated school system, Yeah. So no, just no. Say no to it.
Just one more way that, back to the good old days. Let's get it. Back to the good old days. What do you think about that, Kimberly? Is that? I mean, you're in an interesting position because you are, of course, in one of the counties that has charter schools, right? So most of the counties across the Commonwealth don't even have any of these schools, right? It's only, I think, Lexington and maybe Northern Kentucky. There's some of the kind of the outskirts of Cincinnati and then Louisville that even have private charter schools that could get some of these funds. And I know you sent your kids to private schools. So what's your take on this, Kimberly?
Well, I only sent one. The other one went to Sacred Heart Academy. The other one could have went to Trinity, but he was like, I don't want to go to Trinity. I was secretly happy about that. Saved me some money. But he graduated from Atherton, the same school as Dale Romans. So anyway, just had to bring that up again.
That's a callback right there.
Dale is everywhere you want to be.
I know, right? So anyway, I'm gonna have to call Dale. So anyway, let me tell you. It was incredibly hard for me to afford Sacred Heart Academy, who was $12,500 a year. That's $12,500.
Yeah,
in addition to cheerleading, an extra $7,500 a year, $7,500. When they go to competitions, they didn't do like when I was a cheerleader. We all rode on a bus and, multiple, many of us in hotel rooms, and they put tape around the doors to make sure we didn't leave. They get their own rooms and they fly. Okay, the competitions. So it would have been great to get this extra money. The Archdiocese did give me $1,000. My daughter was a King's Scholar. That freed up another $3,000 a year. But those were outside entities, organizations, but there was no federal monies involved. I don't think there should be federal monies involved. There are some different situations, even at the school level, that will offer some partial scholarships, some, to relieve some of that economic pressure. In addition to $35 a month for parking and all the other stuff, like homecoming. We wore blue jean outfits to homecoming. I do admit that was in the 80s. But they wear long gowns and stuff, like they're going to the Academy Awards for like their homecoming. They call it the Harvest Homecoming Dance. So, it was hard. I had to really scrap, hustle as a single mom with no child support, but we made it through. She did graduate, everything's paid for. But I do not, and I repeat, I do not believe that any federal dollars should go to any private schools, whether they are parochial or just regular private schools or Montessori schools or anything of that nature. If you cannot afford to send your child to that type of school, that's why there is that type of school. Okay. Then you just can't send your child. or you
We gotta,
scrap,
yeah.
and hustle to get them in there. But they're wrong on that. And I really appreciate our governor, Andy Bashir. God bless him. And we love him so much because he really goes for the right thing and he cares about everyone in Kentucky, those that voted for him and those that didn't. Our next president, I must say, I just had to put that in there. But yeah, no, it's a no for me. No.
Yeah, I do. It's interesting that this legislature will always find a way to vote for charter schools, but will never find a way to like do what's required to boost public schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Follow the money. Follow the money, please.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is a money thing. That's why it took so long to get cannabis, and we don't even have recreational cannabis because they had to figure out how they were going to make the money off of it. They're going to get some type of kickback on these charter schools. I could open up a charter school and say, hey, Representative such and such, State Senator such and such, on the low, I'm going to give you this amount of money per year, per month, annual, bi-monthly, quarterly, whatever. You don't know what kind of backdoor deals are going on, but if something's going on, because it makes no sense.
Yeah, I just wish they would show the same commitment to our public schools that they show to this idea of charter schools. All right, so we should move on. We got a fantastic guest. Really excited to be joined. I've been getting a lot of messages from this character because he's working really hard to fight some bad bills. I'm like, okay, what do I have to do to fight this bill? Oh, I know. I'm just gonna have you come on and explain it because really important, but a little complicated. So I'm bringing in Russell Allen, who's been on the show before. He is the leader of Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. I think last time we had him on, he was doing some work focusing on the bad Russell, or AG Russell Coleman, what he was up to speed, and get the death penalty back online here in Kentucky. Now it looks like the legislature is trying to help out as well. So we wanted to just get it from the horse's mouth. The guy who's like leading the opposition to this effort. Russell, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so
Sorry for bothering you.
It's not a bother. I'm just trying to figure out how we can help, and I bet you could just tell us directly how we can help, right? So that's why I wanted to bring you on to do it, because this bill. What's the bill number?
So the bill is SB 251.
All right. And what is going on with it? What does it do? I bet it doesn't say to speed executions in Kentucky, right? It's probably not that's not the headline.
No. So you actually made a good point in the intro when you were talking about Attorney General Russell Coleman. So this is kind of tied to everything that's going on. When we last talked, he was trying to push some things through in the courts, and he's since been unsuccessful with that, mainly around the injunction that's holding executions in place. So this bill is actually kind of targeted towards that injunction process. So basically the argument from this actually filed by Senator West in the Senate. So the argument is basically that the Department of Corrections takes entirely too long to come up with the process of how to execute a person. So this basically, there is a process in which they present their execution protocols. The public has a chance to comment. They go back and work on that protocol until it gets good. And like I said, that's basically what the argument is that particular process is taking far too long, and explicitly in the case of Ralph Bays, that the folks need some sort of relief because of how long it has been. So that is what the bill would do, is the bill would basically exempt those execution protocols from being put out into the public. So it has like a couple of possibilities that it could affect. One, we're not exactly sure how it may, but it could affect the injunction. And then also it's just in the event of executions coming back, that protocol, what they do, what type of drugs they use, how they will do it, is subject to just the Department of Corrections privately, and it can shift, it can move, and also it doesn't have any input from the public. So that's basically where we are. The bill did pass the Senate on Monday, 24-11. It's currently heading over to the House, and we're just we're checking in every day to see where it goes, because we're right down to the end with the session. And like I said, we don't want this bill to pass, so we hope that once it gets in the House, that there's some reconsidering of what this might do.
Awesome. So the key thing that we need to get people to do is call the Senate, the legislative comment line. Parker, I know we've got the graphic. There it is, 1-800-372-7181. And call your all the House members or your House member. Oppose Senate Bill 251 is the simple, straightforward message. Senate Bill 251, oppose it, because any sort of like regulation or a process that the state government is deciding on doing, especially one that has such a huge impact on people in our Commonwealth, that should be a public regulatory development process, right? So the idea that they're going to take this out of the public eye and be able to do it behind closed doors, do it more quickly, do it without public opportunity for comment, that's not the way good rules are made, right? Good rules are made kind of in the public eye. So it seems like, again, kind of similar to some of the other challenges we've pointed out, this is a legislature that likes to do things in the dark, right? It likes to keep the public out of these processes. And so really important that folks do call 1-800-372-7181 about Senate Bill 251. All right. And what else is going on with your work, Russell? What had happened? I know last time we talked, we were trying to get people to come up to the Capitol for a hearing, or maybe it was definitely in Frankfurt. Remind me what that issue was.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the execution protocol hearings that was going on, and folks came in and made comments about that particular protocol, which is something that I was just going to touch on eventually when we got to it. But there's another issue that's kind of coming out of the SB 251 the injunction is in place, and it's around two things: intellectual disability and lethal injection kind of worries, and both of those things have not been addressed yet, which is why they keep going back to the process. And if this bill was to pass, then there's quite a large possibility actually that someone with multiple different things, there are people with innocence claims on our death row currently. There are people that are intellectually disabled on our death row currently. And those people could immediately be at risk for, we believe all executions are wrong, but quote unquote, a wrongful execution. So even by the letter of the law that people present, there are still people at risk of being executed against the Eighth Amendment kind of spirit of that as well. So it's just when you talk about the work that I've been doing, it's really all kind of connected. It really comes down to the fact that we have those 24 people on the row right now. Average age is above 60. I believe about 20 or plus percent is above 70. We haven't executed anyone since 2009. That person actually volunteered to be executed. We haven't given a new death sentence since 2014. So when you look at all of these things that are happening, and then you also look at the fact that we're trying to get back to executions, like what we're trying to talk to people about is like, why? We don't believe that we should be killing anyone. In addition to this bill, Senate Bill 251, there's also another bill, Senate Bill 138, that's not on as quite a fast track as this one, but it would add another aggravator kind of and add something else to make it death penalty eligible. And the way that the law is worded right now, it's possible that someone could receive a death penalty sentence for a crime that they did not commit. Basically, it adds like a child abuse like aggravator for age 12 and under, but it also has the wording of neglect and abuse in it. So if someone else committed the abuse, potentially, as it's written now, we hope it doesn't even get close to passing. And also call your senators about that bill because it has not made it over to the House. But that bill just can open up kind of Pandora's box. And we're seeing that across America. Like Kentucky is a very unique place, but we are seeing across America and even nationally, people wanting to expand the idea of who is eligible to be executed by the state. And it's not just regular executions where, quote unquote, lethal injection. Now people are doing firing squads. It's different things, extrajudicial murder. So when we talk about SB 138, we don't want any expansions of the death penalty whatsoever. We don't want to bring in the possibility of anyone being killed by the state. So that's kind of where the long and short of where things are with us here at KCADP and the death penalty in general.
Yeah, and it seems like the GOP majority seems to be pretty down for the death penalty, huh? The fact that these bills are being brought up, the fact that they've passed at least one chamber. What was the vote on that? Like in terms of
24-11. So it is hopeful. We actually had 4 Republicans come across the aisle to vote against this. So I will say that when it comes to the death penalty, there is an opportunity while they are trying to move this through. I think a lot of this is unfortunately aimed at Governor Beshear and trying to get him to make some decisions, some public decisions as he thinks about what he wants to do for office. We believe that it's an easy decision. Joe Biden's done it. Governor Cooper from North Carolina has done clemency. In Joe Biden's case, it was mass clemency. There's only 3 people left on our federal row. So a lot of this we believe is aimed at Andy and his potential political pursuits. But just what we believe, just personally and in general, is this should be a no-brainer. We have 24 people on our row. Like I mentioned, we could grant clemency for those folks. He could leave Kentucky in a great place, and a place where no matter who steps into that office, we can experience like a new day and a new possibility here in Kentucky. And I also think it's just the right thing to do. So,
Say more about clemency. So you're saying the governor could do what?
So at the current time, he has the ability to grant clemency to folks on the row. And like I mentioned, there are innocence cases on our row. There are intellectual disability cases that are paramount right now. But personally, from our KCADP perspective, we hope that he leans more towards what Joe Biden did on his way out with a mass clemency and really coming out and making a statement that the death penalty is wrong. So we hope that he does that, and we want to expand the conversation about that in the coming year. But we're also very cognizant of the fact that our legislature also knows that that's coming up. And like I said, there are Republicans, and we love those folks, and we work with those folks every day that want to see the death penalty abolished. But there also is a group of folks that do want to see it back, and we're going to fight that. So
yeah. And so when you say clemency, you mean he would basically take them off in death row, and they would just be in general population, or they would be in jail for life in prison?
So there's a number of ways to do it. So there's many states that have done basically, yes, the death sentences are commuted to life without the possibility of parole. We have larger viewpoints about life without the possibility of parole, but like I mentioned, we just really want to see the death penalty in Kentucky abolished. It's dormant. It hasn't been used in a long time. It's really just a tool in the toolbox of prosecutors, and we want folks to have a new day, a new ability to live their life out here. We're one of the highest incarcerating states in the nation, and therefore that makes us one of the highest incarcerating places in the entire world, because the United States incarcerates the most out of any place in America. So we believe that the sharpest edge of that justice system is the death penalty, and if you can get that cleared out of the way, then it opens up. There's people that doing work I can't even fathom right now in Kentucky about how to make sure that people get to live their life with dignity. And right now, a lot of that is being blocked by the fact that when people do wrong things, a lot of people are being offered these really, really, really life-changing sentences that no one would want to do. And a lot of that is the death penalty. So we want to take that off the table when we're talking about criminal justice.
Got it. That makes sense to me. Nate or Kim, any questions for Russell?
Yeah, well, Kim, would you like to go first?
I can. Russell, first of all, really respect what you're doing and putting in all that effort and sweat equity into this. However, I think that there should be more oversight, that it is public knowledge. And I also believe that when someone is getting sentenced to death, it needs to be done with a fine tooth comb. It's it's really hard to believe anything when they want to cover up stuff. It really is. However, I do believe in the death penalty at certain times. Like my friend Elizabeth Wren, whom both of her boys were murdered, stabbed brutally in the genitals all over by Bryce Rhodes. I think everybody's heard of that case. He also killed a man named Chris Jones. That's just here in Louisville, Kentucky. Because they did testing on him, his intellectual being disabled in that type of light, he was given 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. But I'm just going to be honest with you, Russell. I wanted him to get the death penalty. He does not deserve any dignity. He does not deserve anything. He was smart enough to kill 3 people, 2 of them absolutely in the most horrific fashion that they've talked about it on A&E, Discovery Channel, all across internationally. So you don't believe that there's any cases, no Jeffrey Dahmers, no anything where death penalty would be okay?
No, absolutely not. And the
Have
reason
you ever
that
had anybody murdered? How did you feel about that? If you had a family member, I'm sure you've gone through something, or you know somebody that's gone through something.
yeah.
I'm talking about it the most heinous. I'm not talking about those cases that you talked about where they're really innocent, or the crime, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. That's why I think it needs to be a fine-tooth comb. But when it's a Bryce Rhodes, a Jeffrey Dahmer, you think they should still get a reprieve?
Yes, because the reason I think that is because when you allow one and you begin to, and first of all, I just want to say that when we're talking about the death penalty and things, that doesn't change the way I feel or like the anguish that I have when someone goes through something heinous and unspeakable. It doesn't change that fact. But when we're talking about the death penalty and we're talking about the state having that power over execution, the main thing that comes to me is like the innocence claims of other people who are on the road who didn't do those crimes. When you allow the death penalty for quote unquote the worst of the worst, what we actually see is people who are not those people are who eventually get the death penalty. People who are poor, people who have been through abuse, even people who are innocent. Recently, there was a case in Alabama of a person who received clemency, but he was headed towards death. And there are other cases where these people were executed. And he was not the actual committed person who committed the murder, but he was there. And just due to a technicality of law, he was going to be executed. So the mere existence of a single innocence case is enough for me to not want to see the death penalty. I don't believe that any person has the ability to kind of preside over that and say who we think should be here and who shouldn't, even though that people do those bad things every day. I believe what we need to do is we need to shift our focus. I don't know what we could do as far as ever completely eradicating people doing harm to one another. But I do think that we need to move to the front and kind of move to the beginning of people. And we see people that are on death row, they experienced a lot of harms all the way up until they committed ultimate harms on people. So when we go to that front and when we talk about some of the things we're talking about today, when we give people the food they need, the education they need, the love that they need, we can actually erase some of these harms that we're doing. We're not going to get them all, but we can start right here with that compassion. And like I said, then that opens up the doorway to everything. So I do not believe that that any person.
Let me ask you one more question, Russell. If you were sitting in front of my friend, my very, very close friend, Elizabeth Wren, who lost two of her boys at the same time, so horrifically. And how do you talk to a mother like that, saying that Bryce Rhodes doesn't deserve death?
Well, she's valid in her feelings. That's the thing about it. When people experience those harms, the feelings that they have are their feelings and they're real. So that can't be discounted in any way. So I don't even think if I was speaking to her that I would even try to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to be her feeling about the situation, and everybody has their specific feeling when they encounter these things. But my belief is if we're going to live in a world that has compassion, in a world that doesn't have things like those heinous murders, we cannot allow our state to be the person who presides over that, because we've seen time and time again that they are a force compounder for violence. They do not make it better. They make it worse. So when we give them the power and put that in their hands, we're just asking them to send us into chaos, to send us down into a place that we're not really going to be able to get out from. So I think that I think it's hard. Now, I mean, I know what you're saying, and you
feel for her. I
feel for her, but it's not an
compassion.
easy answer. No, it's not an easy answer. And like, honestly, as an abolitionist, definitely abolitionist, like one of the things that my favorite author, Miriam Kaba, has said is like, we don't have all the answers and we won't have all the answers, but the struggling through these things together as community without allowing a state apparatus to turn us against each other, that's where we come up with the answers. That's where we come up with the hard things and how to do this. So like I said, I would just honestly not even, I know it's funny, but I honestly would just respect how that she feels about the situation. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're in opposition in any way.
Powerful.
Thank you, Russell. I appreciate your answer.
Coming at you, Russell. You think these are
this is what
here.
needs to happen, because like a lot of people don't even know we have the death penalty in Kentucky. So having these conversations, getting these conversations out, talking about compassion, trying to bridge the gap and squeeze that thing together.
That's how we had you on. Nima came after you too and had like a personal experience that was connected to her community as well. So,
that's fine. That's perfect. I think that we need to talk about that, because I think the reason the death penalty is around right now is because people have a fear of what happens if someone can't dispense justice. And I think a lot of people are scared, they start thinking about like, well, if this is how our world is now, if you remove these things, what will happen? And what we here at KCADP want people to know is that it's not going to go worse. It's going to come back this way. It's because a lot of the systems and the pressures that are on us today that are squeezing are going that way, and we're going this way. So, yeah.
You know, I used to not believe in the death penalty. I thought it was the most horrible thing, because when you look at the numbers, the statistics, I don't really know Kentucky, but just nationally, it's more of our Black and brown people on death row. And there's a lot of innocent people as well. But then when it happens in your family, and Elizabeth and I are so close, her sons were like my little nephews. Her daughters that are still living are like my nieces. When it hits that close and you can't take a gun and blow their head off, you hope for that, especially when all of the information, all of the evidence is clear. All of the evidence is real. I'm not talking about somebody that has a slight little bit of being innocent or something of that nature. That's why I said in the beginning, it needs to be a fine-tooth comb. Anytime, I don't know if they're going to get rid of it or not, but if they don't, in the meantime and in between time, I appreciate you fighting for at least let's do it in the right way until you see what I see to abolish it totally. I mean, every avenue, every rock needs to be unturned before we actually have someone go through the passing process. I think that's a decent way of putting it, right? The passing process. But when it happens to you and you can't take the gun and do it yourself, you can't. You just feel like that, Russell. You just do. And I'm not trying to jump on you because I remember I started it by I respect everything you're doing. And that's why this is one of the few things that we have left in America underneath the Trump regime is to differ in opinions, but also find the commonality in it.
Yep.
Awesome. Nate, what do you got?
Yeah, so just first of all, thank you, and thanks to Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. Just can't say enough about how much respect I have. Two things I've often heard about the death penalty in the past, sort of general stuff, is like, one, it's not a deter. It's been studied. It's not a deterrent to violent crime. It just does not work as a deterrent. And two, that it's just way more expensive than just incarcerating somebody. And I'm wondering if you have any experience or know about whether those arguments have been able to make any headway with the legislatures in the past.
As far as those are two common and very fact proven things about the death penalty that is not a deterrent to crime. I mean, we can look at the quote unquote crime rates in any place that's executing, and you can kind of see. Plenty of people have done studies on that. There's a lot of information. Death Penalty Information Center has a lot of information on this as well. As far as what kind of headway it's making in the legislature, I think a big kind of point of contention is that process thing is are you doing, because we are in a hyper partisan legislature, so it's just about that process and whether or not we are doing it by the letter of the current law that is in place. And then when you talk about how much it costs, we don't have a lot of information in Kentucky. Actually, if anybody has any information on the cost, we'd love to have some more in-depth information on how much that is. I mean, obviously with our geriatric death row, there's a lot of medical costs. There's a lot of, and with the intellectual disability that's going on, there's a lot of medical costs that are incurred to house those folks, especially on death row. So there is definitely some headway with those, with that kind of framing, I guess.
All right. Thank you. Well, hey, thanks so much. We kept you long, but appreciate the work you're doing. We appreciate the information you're sharing. And again, it is SB 251. Call the legislative comment line, block that bill, and keep that from moving through the House. It's passed the Senate. It's got some momentum. Stop it in the House right now. And again, these are public processes for a reason. We shouldn't be making them secret and putting these decisions behind closed doors. Russell Allen with the Kentucky Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty. Always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
See y'all.
All right. So I think that's our show. Really appreciate everyone. Oh, I wanted to check back in. Where are people going to be on March 28th? Do we have plans? Do we know? This is like No Kings 3. It's like the big event. They're all around the Commonwealth. I'm going to be in Lexington. I know that much. Nate, where are you going to be?
I'm going to be right here at my home in Frankfurt, helping Capital Indivisible put on its rally. Nice. I'm helping with sound reinforcement. I'm singing with a big band. I'm going to perform a call and response with the crowd as well. And anyway, nice. I think it's going to be huge. So really awesome. Looking forward to it.
Kimberly, you getting out of the house? You going to make it out? Where are you going to be?
I don't know. You all going to call me crazy, but I'm thinking about catching a flight over there to my daughter.
That is crazy.
I hear that.
Okay. I understand the instinct. Yeah. I don't know what kind of travel arrangements you can make right now. I don't know that it's going to be.
Some of the airports is open at certain times, not a lot. I'll probably have to stand in a line for 10 hours. But just if I could go over there and hug my daughter, stay a couple of days. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. When you a mother or a father, you are not afraid. I'm talking about even if you got the little furry ones, you just not afraid. If your daughter, if there was a active shooter at your daughter's college, Aaron, you would run there. There would be no fear in your heart, just so you could get your daughter close to you. It's something that kicks in when you
Yeah.
are a parent, you know, even when you got the furry ones. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, all the vibes to Autumn for sure. And sorry that you were just going through it right now. I know it's got to be just, I can't even imagine.
Stop. Y'all gonna make me cry. Y'all gonna make me cry. Y'all gonna make me cry.
I just wanted you to go to the No Kings protest, Kimberly. I wasn't asking about all the other things.
I'm talking about Elf want to be king, okay?
I mean, you got the makings of a very powerful sign, is what I do know. That's for sure. That is like holy fucking shit.
Can I say that on the air? You said it.
I did.
Lord, please don't let this be another link on my heavy chain to weigh me to hell. But fuck Trump.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
It worked. It worked for that Senate candidate. So
It
why
felt
not?
good to say that. I haven't even said that by myself. I've been saying Elf Trump. Can I say it one more time?
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know what YouTube does.
Audience, listeners, and viewers, can I say it one more time? Just one more time. It just made me feel so good. Fuck Trump. I said it. Oh, it feels so good.
All right. And that whole cast of characters. All right, let's go ahead and close it out. Kimberly, can you close it out?
I could do it.
Awesome.
Russell Allen was a great guest tonight. I hope we have him on. I hope he doesn't think I was trying to be hard on him or anything of that nature, but I really do respect the work that he's doing, and I hope he continues it and he gets the results that we all want. But tonight, it's been great with you guys. I've missed some weeks, listeners and viewers, but I'm back because I'm going to tell you who's going to be here next week, and you're not going to believe it. But disclaimer first, Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and Common Ground Kentucky Action, and we are also proud of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is always to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement, like the No Kings rallies and Flip the Sixth. We'll be back next week. And guess, I need a drum roll. You got one for me, Nate? Thank you. We will be joined by my buddy. Oh, I love him so much, Willie Carver. He has just released his second book. He's going to be joining as a co-host, and we will also discuss Tore All to Pieces that was released just yesterday. And of course, we'll have our usual updates on Kentucky political news with our own progressive views, such as F Trump. Okay. Production of episode 251 was by our very own wonderful, amazing, great Parker Williams. Thank you, Parker. Nate, as I like to affectionately call him, Nate Dogg, or Shan, wrote and performed our theme song. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. Say it with me, natosongs.com. And if you missed our weekly live streams on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcast, and our show notes are always available on Apple, Spotify, and just about wherever you get your podcast. If you do listen to the pod, please, we beg of you, leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening. And we really appreciate you. Remember the name Captain Autumn Walker, my daughter, who's currently in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in the Iranian war, and all of our servicemen and women in the Middle East right now. Make sure that you say a prayer, send positive thoughts to them, and we will see you next week at the same time, same place, and you have a great rest of your week as well.